Good afternoon, and welcome to Expansion of Consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock, and I found myself in the background, just kind of, dancing a little bit to the introduction. A lot of the guests that come on, they love it, and I'm so glad. Anyway, welcome back. We're still bringing exciting content that really, really makes a difference in your life. People always ask me, why do you bring so many coaches on the show? Aren't you a coach too? Because there's a different flavor for everyone that's listening. One guy, one female may fit you, and another person may not. I like to bring an abundance of or a variety of different people with different um, backgrounds, spiritual coaches, life coaches, executive coaches, someone that can coach you on reaching the Akashic records, a coach that can train you on channeling, you name it. But the goal is to expand your consciousness. And expansion of consciousness is not just one singular thing. It encompasses everything that you're doing in your life. And that's why I bring a variety of people on the show to express themselves and also to share what they've done in their lives that have changed other people's lives. Our next guest is Michael Martone. Michael is a certified life coach, author, entrepreneur, lawyer, and as a life coach, he helps his clients navigate, transition, and crack down their own personal code to abundance. And we talk about abundance on this show a lot. And there's a lot of different ways to reach that level of abundance. And Michael will talk about that. But you should know that Michael embraces love, possibility, and service in his endeavors. In addition to thriving, or being a thriving life coach, Michael also serves Connecticut citizens as a public interest lawyer. His own life transitions and previous work in private practice, business, and career development have further opened the door to supporting people on their path to a deep, fuller, and more meaningful life. So Michael earned his Juris Doctorate cum laude from Quinnipiac University School of Law and his Bachelor's of Arts from Fairfield University with majors in political science and sociology. He also earned a certificate of professional coaching at the University of California, Davis. Michael also served on several nonprofits and community boards. He loves his family, he loves his life, he loves fitness, and he has two French bulldogs. I mean, what an all-American guy. No, but without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and bring Michael on. And I know you wanted me to just keep going and going and going, but hey, man, your bio could have gone on, and it's a lot of good stuff on there. But I wanted to bring the main character on, which is Michael Martone. Martone. How you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the warm welcome and introduction.
Well,
Love the
cool.
video too.
You like that, didn't you?
Oh, I loved it.
I thought I
Definitely.
saw you in the background, kind of,
Oh,
doing that a little bit. But I'm glad to have you on the show because we talk about a lot of different things, but it all leads up to what can we do to improve our lives. When I share content, when I try to bring people onto the platform, they're coaches, they're spiritual teachers, they're people who have uncovered certain things, cracking the rich code, as you like to say. But there's certain types of individuals that can help people move forward. And you're one of those guys, Michael.
I love that. Look, we all come in service. We all have talents and gifts. And I'm a firm believer that we're here for a short period of time. We have to live with purpose and we have to share our gifts with the world. And we
Yes.
make ripples by doing that. And those ripples live on in ways that we see and ways that are unseen long after we're gone.
Right. And we all are coaches, and there are different variations of how we do it. Um, Maybe a lot of it isn't therapy, maybe some of it is therapy. When you're coaching someone to change their mindset, you're kind of, trying to give them a little therapy there. But my question to you is, how is coaching different from therapy, in your opinion?
Sure. Yeah. So I get this question a lot. And what I like to kind of share with people is that in a really simplistic way. So therapy essentially takes the person from where they are in the present and then they go backwards. They go backwards with a clinical lens, looking at the traumas, looking at the challenges, and trying to essentially work to kind of bring the person forward in their life. Coaching, on the other hand, is really present, future focused. So we find our clients in the present. We're looking to essentially work with them and walk with them as they move from the present into the future. Now, there are plenty of times, I'm sure it happens in your practice too, Jason, where we're going backwards and we're looking at things that come up, but we're not looking at it from a brokenness perspective. We're not looking at it from a clinical perspective. We're essentially I'm recognizing that my clients are whole, capable, really amazing and brilliant folks who really, we try and step into possibility, present, future focused. And I love everything about being able to kind of use those tools to really move people forward. I have a lot of clients, and I get a lot of referrals from colleagues and friends who are therapists, and it's a great synergy when people have it. A lot of us have done work, but coaching is definitely distinct from therapy.
And you're right. Therapy is more session driven. Well, coaching is session driven, but therapy is more trying to, bring you from a situation that may have happened in your childhood. It may have happened in a past life, but just trying to bring you to grips and have you recognize that pain so that we can dissolve it. Coaching is a little different, and I love the way you explained it. And you started as a trial lawyer, and you found your way to being a coach. Let's walk this back a little bit and talk about, you know what I mean? Because I just hopped right in and just gave you what I wanted, questions. But let's dial it back a little bit. And how did that happen?
So it's funny. So I've been fascinated with what it means to live a rich, fulfilling, and meaningful life since I was a kid.
Yes.
So my parents pretty much came from nothing, and they achieved the American dream. And there was, fancy cars and houses and things of that sort, and yet there was something that was missing. And the reality is that was what really kind of like was planted the seed for me to be able to really start to explore. Well, what does it mean to live a rich life? What does it mean to be happy? Having things doesn't necessarily equate to that. And so for me, at a very early age, that was something that really kind of like got my wheels turning and really like stepped into it. I've always been a seeker. I've always asked those big questions, probably to the dismay of some of my teachers and adults over the years. But yeah, it really goes back to that. And from there, I can remember literally sitting with a dear friend of mine on the eve of graduating from college over 20 years ago. And we were talking about what the future would look like and what it might hold. And she's like, Mike, you'd be an awesome life coach. And I was like, what? Like, what's a life coach? And so she proceeded to share with me what that was. She's like, my brother's a life coach. She's like, you help people through life transitions and change and challenges. And she planted the seed in me. And at the time I was a 21-year-old, wet behind the ears, soon to be college graduate. So I was like, who would ever hire me at that point? Anyway, fast forward another 5 years, and I'm sitting with a different friend of mine, and we're about to graduate from law school. And I'm asking her, and we're talking about kind of like, hey, what would you love to do? And she's like, I'd love to go get my Irish citizenship. She's like, my grandparents were citizens, and so we're talking about how she might be able to make that happen. Anyway, she never actually did it herself. But from that conversation, her brother became an Irish citizen. And literally, like, who I've never met, walks around and is like, oh my God, like Mike Martone is the reason why I moved to Ireland, found my wife, and literally have like, this awesome life there. So it's pretty amazing. It took me another probably 5 years or so before I really started dabbling in life coaching and here and there, and then I finally kind of like pulled the trigger and really stepped into more of life coaching over the last 2 years or so.
So Mike, what makes your program different from the other programs out there? And maybe I should ask you, what do you really stress with your coaching program? Let's just talk about the program and then how it applies to people who may be out there listening.
Sure. No, it's a great question. So my work is really individualized. When my clients come to me, our sessions are they're client driven. They're focused on really where the client is. And I walk with and hold deep space for my my clients to essentially explore the really big issues. Right now, I've got a book that's about to come out. It's called, it's actually the 10th edition, Cracking the Rich Code.
All right.
And my contribution, I have a number of co-authors, including Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. He was one of the original Shark Tank judges.
All
The book
right.
has been endorsed by Tony Robbins. And in that book, in my contribution, I explore the power of abundance. And abundance and cracking the rich code is much bigger than just financial abundance. Abundance is about asking the big questions and living a rich and meaningful life. It's about having freedom with one's time and money. It's about having robust and fulfilling relationships. It's about having a healthy body, mind, and spirit. And it's about also having work that's meaningful and that you can share your talents with the world. So these are some of the kind of the hallmarks of what I bring, and the values that I bring to the table. But it really is all about my clients.
Wow. And when you say abundance, on the spirituality side, even though I do mindset performance coaching, but creating abundance for a client for me is showing them how to use self-hypnosis, showing them how to use manifestation, showing them how to maybe activate the pineal gland,
Mm.
and then making sure I understand everything that's going on with you, understanding, let's get clear on what you want. Let's try to figure out what kind of person you are, what your habits are, what do you think success looks like? Because people look at success totally different.
Yeah.
So the same principles as a coach that would, life coaching or executive coaching mixed in with spirituality, which creates the abundance. And it's interesting to hear different tactics or different type processes that you use, just for instance, helping people build abundance in your new book that's coming out. So I like the variety, because there's no one way to do it. There's not.
I love that. I love all of that. I love everything you share. And it's amazing because I have conversations with coaches all the time. And it's amazing to be able to learn about what tools people use and
Yes.
how they use them. And there's so many paths up the mountain, right? And it's just amazing to be able to kind of to continue to learn and to continue to grow. I still consider myself on the early side of my learning. But I love being able to come in service. I love being able to kind of help people. I'm a firm believer that when we heal one or we help one of us, we help us all. We're all connected on this journey, and we sometimes forget that.
So when you're working with different clients, is there a common issue with people that comes up? Just different people. Is there one, like for instance, most of the people I get are dealing with a level of anxiety and depression. And I'm like, okay, is it all of us? Are we all dealing with that? But they are professionals. They are
Yeah.
people who do well. And I have a saying, that successful people, they really do well. But the ultra successful people have a coach. They'll
Yeah.
just never let you know.
It's
So,
absolutely
so,
true.
so do you have the common issues that come up when working with clients?
So you know what?
Uh,
There's a whole bunch of issues that definitely that continue to come up. The one that comes to mind most has to do with fear, and
yes.
there's many cousins of fear, right? Whether it's anxiety, whether it comes up in the form of shame, whether it comes up in the form of not being enough, sabotage, whatever it is. But fear is probably one of the biggest challenges. And you know what? I consistently share with I sometimes walk my clients through the following activity. Essentially, I share with them, I say, hey, look, imagine you were throwing this amazing dinner party and you invited all of these amazing guests of honor, all the things, the hopes and the dreams that you want to come to fruition. Um, Courage and hope and love and possibility and success and abundance and wealth and whatever it is that you're desiring and looking to manifest in your life. And now all of a sudden you have the party, you've worked really hard, you're excited, and all of a sudden you have one or more uninvited guests who come and crash the party. And maybe that's fear, maybe it's shame, maybe it's whatever, right? We all have one, sometimes more. But the thing is this, is that all too often we spend the entire party that we prepared for our guests of honor, and we spend it with fear, or we spend it with that uninvited guest. And the reality is that we need to find ways when that happens, because it does. And
Mhm.
sometimes those guests come and they have something to share and something that we can learn from. But we have to remind ourselves that what we invest in grows. So when we essentially spend time with fear, especially as the guest at this party, it's going to grow. And the reality is that when we've invited courage, when we spend time with courage, courage will grow. So we have to find ways at this party to say, hey, look, you know what? Thanks for coming. You found your way here. When you're ready, you can find your way out. I'm going to go take care of the rest of my guests. Because again, what we feed grows.
You know, and that's very interesting. Interesting concept to hear. And when you talked about investing in yourself, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because talk about the clients that aren't totally ready when you get them on the phone, or the clients who once you tell them your price, they're like, oh, okay, and they're not as interested anymore. What about those type clients? They weren't ready in the first place, huh?
Look, you know what? There's somebody for everybody. And again,
Yes.
people have to be ready, willing, and able to do the work. Um, I I'm still a full-time lawyer, so I'm very selective about the clients that I take on, because my time during my nights and my weekends when I meet with clients is really limited, and it's really precious. And look, at the end of the day, time is the most valuable thing we have. Not just my time, but also the time of my clients. So I want to make sure that when I'm working with folks, even before during our initial conversation, I want to make sure that I'm the right fit for them and they're the right fit for me. And there are folks out there who might be a better fit for folks, and I'll share that with them. At the end of the day, I want to work with folks. I want to work with the doers and the dreamers and the believers and the people who are hungry to pivot and to shift their lives from where they are to where they might be. Folks who look, the reality is that sometimes life is really hard. And sometimes, we get to a point in middle age and beyond, and we start looking at our lives and we're like, wait a second, there's a big gap between where I want it to be and where I am. Or all of a sudden, where I want it to be, I've achieved. And yet, there's still other things missing, other parts of ourselves that just haven't shown up, or that we just don't know how to fill. And that's where I come in, and that's where you come in, and that's where we start to kind of like peel back those layers, and we start to ask those big questions, those deep questions, um, and and it's amazing. It's amazing to be part of the process, because I'm changed every time I sit with my clients. Every single time I'm changed. I learn something about them. I learn something about me and the universe. It's beautiful. I love it. I love coaching.
The peeling back those layers. Sometimes when they come to you with one issue, typically that may be it, but then there are all spill of things going on in their life: bad relationship, trouble at work, finances not together, all from the one issue. So that's why it's difficult to do sessions.
Yeah.
I'm a certified hypnotherapist. I'm certified as a quantum healing hypnosis therapist. You name it, I have the certifications.
Yeah.
But it's very it's rewarding when you can help someone realize themselves. And coaching is about just that, helping a person realize themselves and to come to grips with where they are on this particular journey, on where they want to be. So I'm fascinated just to hear all the different strategies, all the different experiences that different coaches have. But I got a question. You've had a journey as being a coach and being a lawyer. So how do you juggle those two? How do those two worlds intersect?
So it's funny. So I trained as a trial lawyer. I was a trial lawyer for many years, and it's funny because thinking on your feet, listening really deeply to what the other side is saying, and also being able to ask really powerful questions. I mean, that's what you do as a trial lawyer, whether you're in court in a trial or whether you're deposing a witness. And so it's funny, the process of asking questions, powerful questions that get people to be like, oh wow, that's a really good question.
Yes.
That's what I'm trained to do.
Uh-huh.
And that part of it actually just kind of like felt seamless from the very beginning. Look, work and balancing our different priorities, whether it's family, whether it's relationships, whatever it happens to be. It's never an easy or simple thing for, I think, anybody, especially folks who, are high achievers and folks who really want to make the most of their life. I mean, look, here it is. We're moving into the wee hours of the evening, and we're both burning the candle.
Well, I typically like to, obviously we all, have some of us are full-time coaches and some of us have other income driving opportunities because we were coaching for a while and made good money and decided to go into another to create some more cash flow. So we're all kind of juggling things. But what I like, when I'm dealing with a client, I typically try to start them off with something that helps balance their day from day to day. And I move them into meditation sessions. And I try to get them started on how to reach a level of peace, a level of quietness within themselves. Because like you just said, I got some very interesting questions for you. I have some tough, well thought out questions that's going to challenge you about your life and getting clear on exactly what you want. So I think, when I introduce meditation to really all of my clients, they really love it because none of them really meditate. First off, secondly, they're able to really find this peace and this balance. And I'm just wondering, are there any metaphysical techniques that you sort of insert in your life coaching with your clients?
So you know what? It depends on the circumstances. I have
Yes.
used meditation in the past. It really depends on where the person is on
Mm-hmm.
their own journey, what their openness is. You know, if if I find that a client is coming into me and is particularly unsettled or in a space. I'm sorry if you hear my dog crying.
I got you. I know you've been doing a great job, so we're gonna just let him do what he do.
um, but it really depends on the client, and oftentimes I'll ask the client themselves, hey, look, can we take a few minutes and maybe do some breath work? Can we take a few minutes and would you be interested in doing a meditation? Other times, I might share with clients after the fact some meditations that I love, and take it that way. But it really just depends.
Well, I mean, you're rolling with Tony, and you got all these guys that are out there doing this type thing. I know Tony deep. Tony's deep. Okay, we
Oh,
all love Tony Robbins. I mean,
yeah.
he's
Oh,
deep.
yeah.
We know that he's probably been taught by the best in the world.
Yeah.
And a guy like him may have a coach too. We all have coaches. I
Yeah.
still have a coach.
Yeah. Me too.
So it's a wonderful feeling to bring joy or to unlock a person's abilities.
Yeah.
And I guess the good Lord made something for everybody to do because coaching is necessary. Now, people may look at the prices and say, "Oh, I'm not doing that." But when you go and get a coach, it's sort of like a nicety. It's not anything. I mean, you're paying for this person to help guide you through your life, just like you would go get a weight coach to lose weight, go get a strength coach to get strong. I mean, athletes use coaches because they get them better. And I think that more and more people are starting to understand that, hey, it doesn't mean I can't do it myself, but if I had a coach that could really, really format this thing for me and put me on the right track, I'll save myself a ton of headaches.
Absolutely. Look, I said it before. You said it very well, and I said it before too. Time is the most precious thing that we have, and the reality is that when you're working with a coach, you find ways to essentially get there quicker and more efficiently and with more clarity. What's better
Wow.
than that? I mean, and the reality is that it's like, you know, how can you put a price when you're stuck in life, when you're unhappy, when you're not where you want to be, when you're looking for deeper meaning and um, satisfaction, when you find that, and you find that through coaching, I mean, what would you put on what price tag would you put on finding more peace, more happiness, more clarity, your next step, getting unstuck? I mean, those could be $1 million answers for some people.
And that's a person who has pretty much set their intuition. I mean, set their sights on what they want. If you don't have a client that has really said, "This is it. I have to lose this weight. I have to get this contract. I'm ready to do whatever it takes." And those are the type of people who the coaching program works for the most. You run into the left brainers, and the left brainers are the analytical people, the people who have to watch every single step, and they won't let go of the process and procedure with the left side of the brain. But typically the right side of the brain, the more creative, the more the memories, the pictures, the people who are more open to suggestion. And those are the clients that really do well. The left brainers do well too, but the right brainers really embrace, because a lot of the techniques we teach them, some may be metaphysical, some may be, business techniques that are proven to work, but you have to be open. You have to stay in the theta brainwave state, which is the state we can receive the most information and retain it. You got to stay there when you're being coached. And I tell clients that all the time, that if the smallest thing can distract you, oh, I got an issue over here. Okay, we're going to hook up next week. Coaches, I mean, we're watching you. when you reschedule and we're watching you. It may not work for you. You paid your money though, but it may not work.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And even for those left brainers, a lot of the times you're able to introduce and soften some of what what's worked for them. And that's also a beautiful thing, because by softening and expanding what's possible and other ways of kind of doing things, you can get there quicker and faster. I mean, look, I always say this, and it's kind of like a little bit of a tangent, but we've been sold a false bill of goods. I mean, the reality is that so much of society has been told, look, bigger, better, more, and people get onto the track of life, and they're essentially focused on bigger, better, more, the bigger house, getting more money, the bigger job, the nicer car. And the reality is that, when a person's in their 20s or their 30s and the early part of their life, that works, and they achieve a certain degree of success and a certain degree of financial abundance. And usually at some point, I find, at least with a lot of my clients, that at some point they hit, whether it's in their 40s or their 50s, one of two things happens. Either they're continuing to kind of chase after things, and they're hoping that what worked for them in the early part of their life will work for them if they just double down or triple down, or just do more of what they did then, and they're finding that it's not working. Because what's happening is that there's a gap in their relationships. There's a gap in finding meaning. They might have a lot of money, they might have a big house, but the reality is that there's a gap between where they are and the life that they really want, and the life that they really desire, and the things that really matter and mean something to them. And then the other folks, they tend to be in a situation where all of a sudden they're going along doing that, and then either they're faced with a health problem, or they're faced with a failed marriage, or they're faced with some other kind of unforeseen thing that literally changes their life entirely. And then they start asking the questions, wait a second, there's got to be more than this. Like, life is supposed to be more than this. And that's when they come and see me. That's when they come and see you. And they realize that, like, we can't just numb life. We can't just, the bigger, better, more doesn't work. It's not a long-term sustainable recipe. And the reality is that, we have to try and dive deep into the things that matter, and cultivate the things that matter. We have to start with asking the big questions, the big whys, the scary things that we're afraid of asking. And then we got to proceed to the sustainable stuff, finding ways to feed courage, finding ways to grow our faith, finding ways to kind of cultivate patience and trust, and a whole bunch of stuff. which I go into in my book actually with the clients.
So I was gonna ask you that that question. You were giving it to us. I was gonna say, what's your coaching strategy? What can the audience, they know that when they get with you? Okay, first off, let's sit down. Let's figure out what it is you're trying to do. What is your 3 steps to success, or your 5 steps, or your strategy in your program?
So I don't necessarily have like a simple cookie cutter like response to that,
Mhm.
but I dive deep. I start with asking the big questions. Look, the reality is that those big, scary questions don't have simple answers. Sometimes there are no answers. But the reality is that once we start to ask the questions, we tell God, the universe, whatever you conceive the greater force to be, look, I want some clarity. I'm looking for clarity. And you start to move in that direction. And the reality is that once you start moving in that direction, it's like you walk to the edge of what you can see, and then when you get to that edge, you see more. And
Right.
that's the process that we kind of rinse and repeat with finding clarity in our life. And look, we live in a really busy world. We're bombarded, whether it's through the internet, through our phones, through life in general. Uh, it's the fastest the world's ever been. And the reality is that finding clarity amidst a sea of choices and opportunities, and by the way, that bigger, better, more, which is the undercurrent of everything, um, finding clarity, meaningful clarity, our purpose, our soul's purpose, our life purpose. That's something that requires effort, and we have to start with asking the questions. So I start with asking the questions, the big questions, and we go from there. But yeah, there are definitely, like I said, a whole bunch of other things, that go into it, that go into finding clarity and and such.
So, I mean, just to piggy off on finding your life purpose, what's the most powerful thing we can do to step into our dreams and live more meaningful lives?
Look, it starts with asking the questions. We got to ask the questions. If we don't ask the questions, we don't know where we're going.
Mm.
It seems really simple, but the reality is that the questions are tough. But we got to ask the questions. You start with the questions, and then you move step by step by step. You continue to, like I said, walk to the edge of what you can see. Look, if you and I were driving to, you're in Texas. If you and I were driving from Texas to California tonight, right, in a car, the reality is that our lights would only see a few hundred yards in front of us, right? But every time we moved 100 or 200 yards, we'd see another 200 yards. And we would continue doing that, and we'd get more and more clarity. It's the same thing in life. And the reality is that sometimes you make a wrong turn, but you'd have to take action. And any action sometimes, especially when you're stuck, even if it's just kind of processing and it's thinking about the next step, any action is helpful because you can recalibrate. It's just like GPS. You take a wrong turn, you move in a different direction again.
Yes.
Most of the times we tell ourselves that the turns and the missteps are fatal, but they're not. Very
Right.
few of them are.
Wow. Michael Martone. Hey, listen, we're bumping up close to it being our time running out. Do you have anything you want to leave with the audience? Maybe a free gift that you're offering, or the next seminar you're doing, or what can you leave with the audience, or what do you want to leave them with? Maybe it's some words of wisdom and or gratitude.
Sure. No, absolutely. I'm happy to offer all of your viewers at least 10% off. Just mention your program. I'm happy to do that for folks. And again, the most important things. Look, we have to bring love and service to all the things that matter in our life. We need to spend time building relationships. We need to bring love and service to all that we do. And really, when we spread love, and we step into we're stepping into another type of abundance. We're
I
leaving
love it.
ripples in the world, and that's really when you've cracked the rich code.
See, I enjoy talking to you, Mike,
Me too.
because
It's been a pleasure.
you have a mixture of metaphysics and business, and sometimes you have to walk. There's some pastors who want to come on my show, but they understand what religion is, but they understand spirituality too, and that things are a little different, and they have to walk a fine line with the people that follow them. So, I try to, I have a lot of coaches that come on that have all these business concepts, but then behind the scenes they're saying, "Hey, okay, now we're gonna go meditate and we're gonna ask God, we're gonna manifest too." They're quiet with it,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I want people to understand that using these techniques infused in your coaching, along with stuff that we may have learned in our MBAs or just business principles,
Yeah.
it works. Don't worry about it. It's nothing wrong with it.
You know what it is? It's about finding our authentic voice, and we're constantly
Yes.
kind of peeling those layers back ourselves. The reality is that we've all been on our own journeys in terms of discovering ourselves, rediscovering ourselves.
Yes.
It's a constant process, and we have. And I'm a firm believer that what we put out comes back to us. I'm very proud, very very humbly proud, if that makes any sense, of who I am and where I've come from, and I try and remember that, and to just it's part of who I am. So I kind of lead with my most authentic self as best as I can.
Well, Mike, it was great having you. Hold on for a second. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna move
My
you in the back
pleasure.
office. I'm gonna finish this out. Just stay there. Don't go anywhere. Wow. Mike Martone, he's speaking about shifting your mindset and stepping into a greater life, helping you crack the rich code, showing you what the power of abundance can really mean to you. The power of gratitude. Gratitude is very powerful. If you use it in the right way, the power of gratitude can take you a long way. And it's a part of your very fabric as a human being. But fear and love, you have to choose. It's one or the other. And those are the two things that we deal with. And I don't care how you slice it or how you look at it, fear or love. Which one will it be for you? I'll leave you with three things: trust, relax, and discover. It's been a great show. We appreciate Mike coming on, and we certainly will have him back at some point. But thank you for listening to the Expansion of Consciousness. You can watch us live on YouTube. Just type in at Expansion of Consciousness and make sure to click subscribe and like. That helps us stay on and continue to bring this type of content to you. Have a good night, and we love you.